So this will be the first installment of Random English Words. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with that title, but it's a working title for now. And I remember talking about Nothing 4 or 5. I was testing out this new audio equipment setup. And to do so, I was just going to use a random word generator to talk about random stuff in a talking about nothing, since it's pretty much understood in those editions of the podcast. You shouldn't really expect too much. It's just me talking random shit. But I never actually used the random word generator. And last night, I was taking a break from work and just wanted to do something. So I figured, let me just cut on the mic and use the random word generator for real. Because the last few episodes I've done, the audio quality was just not great, bro. And you might have heard me say before, audio quality is important to me as the producer of the podcast, and I want it to be the last thing you think about. I want it to be so good and crisp and clear and smooth that you're just focused on what I'm saying, not as opposed to the quality of the audio transmitting what I'm saying. I hope I'm making sense here. So anyway, I was just going to play around with the mic at different settings to see where I need to put the mic and what level I need to record at and how to EQ my voice and all that so that I can get a good sound. And what better way to do that than using a random word generator just to talk about some shit? You know what I mean? So anyway, all that is very far removed from the purpose of this episode. I know I was talking shit in a recent episode about people who take too long to get to the point. So let me go ahead and get to the point. This new installment of Real English Radio, hopefully it becomes a thing. I guess we'll have to wait and see how entertaining these episodes actually are. But hopefully they'll be both entertaining and educational, because the idea is I have this random word generator in front of me. I click a button, it shows me a random word, and I'm just going to riff or talk unpreparedly about whatever word appears on the screen. And in theory, it's going to be somewhat useful to you. Listening to me riff on these words, maybe you'll learn something. Like I said, we don't know if this is going to become a thing, but part of what I like to do as a podcaster is just try new shit. I refuse to just do the same thing again and again and again. It's boring to me, and if it's boring to me, it's probably going to be boring to you, right? So now that the intro is out of the way, let's go ahead and get started, man. There's really nothing left to say. So I got this word generator open. Let me go full screen with it. No distractions. All right, get that out the way and that out the way. Okay. Here we go. Word number 1, motorist. 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 Now, without looking at the dictionary, when I hear the word motorist, I think of anybody operating a motor vehicle. That could be a car. It could be a truck. It could be a motorcycle. It could be like I said, anything with a motor. Now, you may be asking yourself, what about a bicycle? A bicycle is not a motorist because a bicycle doesn't have a motor, does it? Somebody riding a bicycle is a cyclist, which is slightly different. What's it like in your guys' city? Do you guys have what we call bike lanes? On public streets and roads, there are, I guess in more developed modern cities, there's often one specific lane for people riding bikes. Cars can't drive there. Theoretically, people aren't supposed to walk there. Only bikes can travel in that lane. And obviously, this is beneficial to everyone because bikes aren't holding up traffic, or bike riders. Cyclists aren't holding up traffic by riding in the lanes that all the cars are supposed to be driving in. So cyclists aren't pissing off motorists. And they're also not running, well, they run less of a risk of getting hit by a car that either doesn't see them or is just so tired of them holding up traffic that they decide to drive through them, which has happened. I don't know what you guys see online. I've seen quite a few videos of people just riding bikes in the middle of the street because there's nowhere else to ride in their city, and they say, well, I have a right to this road just as much as you, so fuck you. I'll ride as slow or as fast as I want. You just have to wait. And so in a lot of places, people hate cyclists because although some of them do have that mentality, which is, well, I don't know what to do, there's nowhere else to ride, there are certainly others who are intentionally just being assholes. Like, what are you going to do? Hit me? Heck, I dare you, buddy. Hit me with your car. See if I don't call the police. And some days they just They just try the wrong person and fucking get ran over by a car, bro. Which I can understand, man. Sometimes the law is protecting the wrong people. Wouldn't you guys agree? The laws are a tricky thing because sometimes the reaction that people deserve is against the law. And if you're just being a dick, you got 50 cars behind you and you're going like 13 kilometers an hour just because you can and you know it's illegal for them to hit you, and you don't have to move. You're a fucking dick, bro. You know what I mean? The fuck out of the way. So that's the benefit of bike lanes, theoretically, is everybody has a space on the street, except pedestrians. Y'all ever notice that? I did some episodes in the past. There's this, I don't want to classify her incorrectly. I believe she's a psychologist, but I can't remember if that's her official occupation. All I know is that she has studied psychology and she applies psychological principles to the work and media that she produces. Her name is Dr. Tayana Panova. You can find her on TikTok, also YouTube, I'm pretty sure. And she talks a lot about how urban development or city planning or how our environment affects our psychology, our well-being, our daily experience. And so she was the one that pointed out to me through her videos just how much space pedestrians and people, well, yeah, just pedestrians, people walking through the city, how much space we have surrendered to motor vehicles. If you walk through any major city, especially in the US, which is built for fucking cars, if you walk through any major city, the majority of the space in which people travel from point A to point B is occupied by cars and buses and motorcycles and vans and trucks and shit. There's this tiny little slab of concrete off to the side for the people, which is strange because we built, I shouldn't say we, the country was built for the people, not for the cars, but the cars occupy the most or the majority of the space. And there, I've seen some not infographics, but like, what would I call them? Just images, images visually demonstrating how much space. Like if you look at a typical street and you Photoshop the street out of the image and there's nothing left but the sidewalks and the people walking on them, you can clearly see 80 to 85, if not 90% of the street is occupied by cars. And whatever's left over is for the people, which is strange. And I'm sure it's the reason you don't see that many people just walk in the streets in the US because it's got this little tight. I mean, take a city like New York, for example. Everybody packed on that tiny ass little sidewalk. Nobody has space for anything. When they're the residents of that city and you can't even walk comfortably through your city. It's just nothing but buildings and cars. And fucking motorists. Is honking the horn illegal in your country? I don't know if this is true in other states, but last time I checked, in the state of Texas, honking your horn is illegal. And maybe you haven't heard those words. You know what I'm talking about, but maybe you don't know those words. The horn on your car is that device that goes bum 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 bum. That's the horn. And to push down on the steering wheel to activate the horn is what we call honking. The same way a dog will bark, a horn honks. As weird as that sounds, that's what we call it, to honk the horn. Bump, bump. Honk it once, bump. Honk it twice, bump, bump. That's honking the horn. So I believe in Texas, that's illegal. Why? I don't know. I don't know the actual reason behind it. I can only imagine it's to, what word would I use? It's to lower the chance that people fall into road rage, something very common amongst motorists all around the world. And maybe you don't know what that is. The word rage, R-A-G-E, describes very intense fury. I mean, just like red hot, blood boiling anger. That's rage. So road rage is that, but on the road when you're driving your car or riding your motorcycle or whatever. And so I would have to imagine it has something to do with that. Again, I have no idea. But when you're honking your horn, this is the thing about honking horns in general, is fucking pointless. Unless you are honking your horn to let somebody know that they're in the way, They literally are just oblivious to what's going on around them, and you bump, just tap the horn real quick to wake them up out of whatever trance they were in and let them know, hey, you're standing in the middle of the street. Please get the fuck off the road. That's a reason to honk your horn. Or maybe somebody's backing their car up and you're positioned behind them and they don't see you. They don't realize they're about to run into your car or collide with your car. And you bump, bump, let them know, hey, there's a car back here. Please don't fucking destroy my shit. Those are good reasons to honk a horn. But if everybody involved in the situation knows what's going on and you honk your horn anyway, I don't see the point in that. Like, for example, here in Thailand, or at least in Bangkok, one thing that's quite common actually is people who are riding on motorbikes will be riding down the wrong side of the street, going against traffic, simply because it's easier than going all the way down the street, making a U-turn, then making a right turn just to get to where you want to go. Sometimes driving down the wrong side of the street is the quickest way to get to this little turn that you need to make. People do it all the time. I actually do it all the time. It's a common practice here. And what sometimes happens is you'll be driving down the wrong side of the street and another person on a motorbike is coming the correct way down the street, going with traffic. And instead of just moving to the side so that both of us can pass by each other, they'll honk their horn as they pass by you. It's like, what do you believe you're accomplishing by honking your horn at me? Like, obviously, I understand what they're communicating. They're saying, hey, asshole, get out go with the flow of traffic. You're doing something wrong. And I guess they just want to alert you or call you out on that type of shit. But it's like, bro, you're traveling at 50K an hour. What is honking your horn going to do? I'm not going to turn around. I'm still going where I need to go. You know what I mean? I don't know. And getting back to Texas, I know, not just in Texas, but in many places, honking your horn at somebody like that in a situation where you have no reason to, it pisses people off. And some people are different than others. And when they get mad, they want to fight. They want to physically attack you. They want a confrontation. So it's like, bro, if you're not prepared to pull your car over and fight about it, why are you honking your horn at strangers, bro? You know what I mean? They're not going to hit your car. They're not just standing in the way, holding up traffic. You're just doing it to say, hey, asshole, stop doing that. You know what I mean? And you're not going to stop to tell them that verbally. You're just going to just honk your horn. And it's like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Take some fucking self-defense classes, bro. Have y'all seen that video on TikTok? This guy, I don't know what he was doing. This guy was driving through a neighborhood and one of the homeowners on that street came out and I guess he flagged him down. He called, like he waved at the guy driving and told him to stop. So the guy stops his car, rolls his window down, and the homeowner comes and puts his hands on the car, leaning on it or whatever, and says, hey, I don't remember exactly what he said. It was something like, hey, you need to slow down driving through this neighborhood, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. It's the first thing he said. And the guy who was driving the car had his phone out. He was recording the interaction. And he said, oh, yeah? You need to start taking some self-defense classes. And bro, the homeowner immediately, he was like, okay. Didn't have shit else to say because he got the fucking message, which is like, bro, you need to be careful how you approach people, man. You do not know what people are capable of or what type of weapons they have in their car or what type of mental state they're in. You will get fucked up for approaching people disrespectfully or with an attitude or whatever. So that's why I say work on your communication skills. All right, my friend? I don't want you out here getting your fucking head caved in because you thought you was big and bad until you met somebody who was big and bad. You know what I'm saying? That's that's motorist for you. Let's take a crack at another word. What do we got here? Tournament. TOURNAMENT. Jesus, how many letters is that? 4, 8, 9, 10 letters. Tournament, also known as competition. Well, I guess a tournament isn't the same thing as a competition, is it? Because a competition could be between just two people. You can have a competition with yourself, but a tournament, in my mind, describes something where there's various teams involved and there's a round of 16, for example, where the loser gets knocked out and the winner moves on to the next round, and there's the round of 16. and then the quarterfinals, and then the semifinals, and the actual finals. That's a tournament, like the World Cup or the Euros or Copa America or whatever. Competition is just anybody who's competing against somebody else. It's not specific to how many people or how many teams are involved. But you can use those words interchangeably in casual conversations. But in my mind, without reading the dictionary, that's how I would distinguish those two words. What do y'all think about participation trophies? This is something that's gained popularity in the last decade in the US. Not all over the country, but in the more, I guess the word would be liberal cities, even though that's a misuse of the word, in my opinion. But I'm talking like San Francisco, San Jose, New York City, even Los Angeles, the more liberal cities as opposed to conservative cities. People with more liberal or progressive ideologies, even though, again, those are gross misuses of those words. But that is the words that people tend, those are the words that people tend to use, which is beyond the point. Not here to get political or anything of that sort. What I'm asking you about is what you think of participation trophies and medals and shit. So typically in a tournament, the Olympics or the World Cup or whatever, you have winners and losers. Or you might have first place, second place, third place, and then everybody else. First place gets a gold medal, second place gets a silver medal, third place gets a bronze medal. All very honorable positions to be in. Third place is still a fantastic achievement, but it's third place. You're not going to get the gold for being in third place. You got third place. And somewhere along the line, people who, in my humble opinion, think of themselves as good people had the bright idea to just give everybody a medal or a trophy, even if they came in last place, even if they lost horrifically. They should just get a trophy, or in other words, a reward just for trying. Doesn't matter how much effort you put in or whether you were good or not, whether you win or lost, we're still going to give everybody a trophy. In my mind, that deletes, Jesus Christ, that, what's the word I was looking for? That defeats, that's the word I was looking for. It defeats the purpose of the competition in the first place. Everybody can't be a winner, bro. Am I tripping? Like everybody, if we're competing, there's going to be a winner and a loser. So the idea of giving the losers, and that's what they are, is fucking losers. Everybody loses at some point. I don't understand when that became such a horrible thing, bro. There's winners and losers everywhere in life. But so the idea we should give the losers trophies just like the winners is basically saying, hey, winner, I know that you were better and you were more skilled or tried harder or it was your day, but fuck all that. We're going to give the losers the same thing that you got, the same thing that you were fighting for. We're going to give it to them because we don't want them to cry or feel bad. I don't see a problem with that. That's weird, man. That's weird. What is the purpose of a tournament or a competition if at the end of it, everybody gets the same prize? It really defeats the purpose. Like, why compete if we're not gonna, you know what I mean? It doesn't, or like the same shit. It's the same thing where in those same tournaments or those same people, they like the idea of not even keeping score. Let's have a football match and not keep score. Let's have a basketball game and not keep score. So that way there are no winners and there are no losers. We're just playing the game just to play the game. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Let's change the rules of the game so that nobody feels bad at the end of the game. Bro, part of what it means to be a loser is to feel the pain that comes with knowing there's somebody out there better than you. Somebody out there who worked harder, who is more disciplined, who has more skill, and you use that pain as motivation to then train harder, develop your skill even more, become a better version of yourself. So the next time you compete, you have a better chance of beating the person who beat you last time. If you remove that pain, that very necessary pain from people's lives, or let's just use athletes, from an athlete's life or career, what motivation do they have to become a better athlete? They don't have. I mean, I can't. I don't can't say they don't have one. I can't think of one. I can't think of any motivation. Why would you strive to be better if you know no matter what you do or how shitty you are, you're also going to get a gold trophy at the end of the competition? It's not even a competition. At the end of this fucking charade, at the end of this show, you know what I mean? What motivation do you have to try harder, train longer, be more disciplined, eat the right foods, watch game film, study your opponents, show up early to training, leave late from training? What motivation do you have to do that if you're not going to be glorified as the winner at the end of it? If you're not going to be rewarded for trying harder and developing more skill than anybody else, why would you then do it? Like, we can't deny human nature, bro. We have reward systems ingrained into us. And I know I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a scientist or a biologist or whatever the fuck. I'm just repeating what I've heard and understood as common knowledge at this point. So I could be wrong about this. It's my understanding we have reward systems built into us, and we won't even take action unless there's something in it for us. I mean, this goes all the way back to our ancestors that would literally sit around conserving energy until it was time to get up and kill that animal and then drag it back to the tribe and skin it and cut it up and cook it and eat it. If they weren't going to get a delicious meal on the other end of all of that struggle, then they just wouldn't do it. You see what I'm saying? So if you're not going to get a trophy, if you're not the only person that's going to get a trophy at the end, why would you even try or care about winning? I don't see why you would. And the question I have is why the fuck would we want a population that's not concerned with winning? Why would we want a generation of kids that aren't concerned with being the best they can possibly be? That to me doesn't make any sense. So when it comes to tournaments, I think that rewarding the best is necessary. And I don't mean punishing the worst, because their punishment is, again, the pain that they feel knowing that they weren't good enough. And it doesn't mean that you have to try, maybe just pick a different sport or go work on computers or some shit. But if you want to compete in this sport and you want a prize, you got to be the best. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. This is just like fundamental shit, bro. You know, another thing that's interesting about tournaments too, I was thinking about this the other day, is that it has been a long time since somebody has invented a new sport. And I shouldn't say it that way because a couple of new sports or games have been invented, like what's the name? It's not pickleball. It's shit. The name escapes me. I can't remember the name. There's another sport where there's this small circular trampoline very low to the ground, and there's four players, two players on each team, and there's this yellow ball the size of a baseball or a softball. And what you do is you take this ball and you smack it down and bounce it off of the trampoline, and then somebody from the opposing team has to hit the same ball back down to the trampoline before the ball hits the ground. So think about it similar to volleyball, where you can't let the ball hit the ground or else you lose or lose a point or whatever. And I don't remember what it's called. I can't remember what that sport is called. And I believe it's accepted as an actual sport in the US now. There's like competitions and teams and sponsors and shit. It's fucking wild. It's just some random backyard game. But I guess every sport started as some random backyard game. Dudes kicking a football around or shooting basketballs into a peach basket or some shit. So what I'm saying is we have a fixed number we have a number of mainstream sports recognized around the world. Football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, track and field, right? The 100-meter dash or the shot put or the javelin throw, or what do they call it? The pole vault. That's such a weird one, bro. But it's a sport, it's an activity that we recognize. But when's the last time somebody invented something like that? It's been a long time, bro. I guess the last thing that's mainstream, that became a mainstream sport, was skateboarding. Isn't that an Olympic sport now? I'm pretty sure it is. It's pretty crazy that for the longest time it wasn't accepted in the mainstream, because skateboarding is one of the fucking most physical and dangerous and hardcore sports out there, bro. Skateboarders don't get enough respect, bro. Skateboarding is so badass, dude. Anyway, like I was saying, I can't remember the last time a sport like that was taken mainstream. I mean, worldwide. We just had the same number of sports, and that's pretty much it. And it makes me wonder, what were they doing back then? What was life actually like back then when football was invented? I mean, to even think of any game, Grand Theft Auto or checkers or chess, bro. Who the fuck invented chess, bro? To even think of games like this, to come up with the rules and the strategies, and are we using pieces or balls or bats or whatever? What do we need to accomplish the goal of the game? You know what I mean? That's interesting though, because if history is correct, they didn't have half of the technology and knowledge about this world that we have today. So what the fuck were they doing back then? You know what I mean? Interesting to think about. Let's move on to another word. Number three, initiative. It's an interesting one. Initiative. Initiative. Now, if you're reading it, it looks like initiative or initiative. That's how you should say it, right? If we're pronouncing all the syllables. Initiative. But a lot of people, at least Americans, when speaking quickly, initiative. Initiative. And actually, that last T becomes a soft D. Initiative. Take the initiative. Take the fucking initiative and get it done. Initiative. I actually don't know this for the first time. I'm gonna have to pull out the dictionary. I don't know how to define that word. I would say make the first move. Initiative. The ability to assess and initiate or start things independently. The power or opportunity to act or take charge before others do so. So that is a much more clear way of saying make the first move. It's the same concept. That's what I would say naturally. Make the first move, but a more standard way would be take the initiative. Take the initiative. This is something that's also important and probably something that you've heard me bitch and moan about on the podcast before. How all of us need to take the initiative much more in life as opposed to just waiting for things to come to us, waiting for other people to make the first move or take the initiative. And that's especially true for people learning to speak a foreign language, man. If you've been listening for a while, then you know I'm of the belief that languages are learned in communities with other people, talking to people, interacting with people, learning about the cultural norms, the customs, the history, the heritage, and assimilating, trying to become one of these people, even if only temporarily, living your life as these people live their lives in order to be able to not only say the words that they say, but speak the language that they speak. I know that sounds dumb, but to me, there's a difference. There's a difference between knowing how to say la Casa Roja, though I know how to say those Spanish words, but how to communicate in Spanish in a natural way that Spanish speakers will be receptive to. That's very different. So what I'm saying is, I believe languages are best learned in that way. And if you're a foreigner, especially an adult, traveling to a foreign country or even just online on a Discord server or a language exchange app, one thing that the majority of people, in my experience, fail to do is take the initiative, make the first move. A lot of people will get on these apps or these websites or even go to a foreign country expecting somebody to roll out a red carpet for them and welcome them like kings and queens and make everything easy for them when that's not how it works. It's the exact opposite, in fact. And that's really the reason that a lot of people don't progress with their linguistic abilities or their communication skills because they're afraid to speak to somebody that they don't know, start a conversation, suggest different topics, listen attentively, keep a conversation going, humble themselves. Like there's so many things that go into it, but it all starts with making a fucking move. All the guys listening can certainly relate. I mean, when you see a girl in the street that you're interested in, You got to make the first move, bro. If you don't speak to her, like, you're not going to get the fucking number, bro. So you got to make the first move. You know what I mean? Swallow your fucking pride and walk over there and say something to her. Make the first move. But making it relevant to everybody listening, as I said, whatever language you're learning, I'm assuming it's English. Making the first move is going to give you the shortcut that you're looking for. It's not another YouTube video or another course or another TikTok lesson or some shit like that. Because obviously, as I always say, that stuff is helpful. You can learn a lot. But when it comes to learning to communicate, a YouTube video is not going to teach you that, bro. It's just going to give you the fundamentals and some things you could try. But sooner or later, you got to try. You feel me? So making the first move is so vital. So vital because the world isn't going to hold your hand and make things easy for you, even though you may have been led to believe that by parents who probably weren't fit to raise children. And I don't, that probably sounded rude to some people, but that's a personal belief. That was a biased statement. Anyway, you might have been led to believe that the world is just going to hold your hand and make things easy for you and everything in life is fair and you don't have to make any effort or be humble or take risks. That's not how life works. So if you want to learn to speak a foreign language or achieve anything in life, then developing the instinct to make a move when you know a move needs to be made, as opposed to just waiting for somebody else to make a move, is going to change your life radically, bro. I promise you. It's going to make your English a lot better because you'll realize if you make the first move, not everybody, maybe not even the majority of people, but some people will be happy to talk to you. They'll be happy that you said something. You might even notice that they were waiting for you to say something because they're also afraid to make the first move. So if you can be the one, if you can be the one, you're not only helping yourself, you're helping other people and showing them that it doesn't take much, you know? We can all be courageous. We can all be brave. We can all make the first move. We can all do a lot more than we think we can do. And by making the first move before you feel ready to do so, you will be showing yourself as opposed to just telling yourself. You'll also be showing whoever else is watching. That's why we love superheroes and the protagonist and all the stories that we see or hear and shit like that is because they embody what it is that we wish we possessed, which was courage, bravery, the fucking balls to take action, bro, regardless of how difficult it's going to be or what other people think or how they're going to look. I'm doing this because I know it's right, or I'm doing it because I know I need to do it. I'm doing it because nobody else is going to do it. I'm making the first move. Out here fucking taking action, fam. You know what I'm saying? Calling shots, kissing babies, shaking hands. You know what I mean? Tony K for president 2024 or 5 or whatever. I don't know. Take the initiative, man. Take the initiative. That doesn't mean act without thinking. It doesn't mean be stupid. Just impulsive like a child or something like that. I'm saying you still need to think through what it is you're doing, but still, a lot of us just get addicted to that stage of the process. We just, oh, let me stop and think about it first. And then you thought about it, and it's like, oh, well, let me think about it some more. And 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 then you never do shit. You know what I mean? So, man, if you're listening to this, hopefully for at least one of you, this was the little verbal push that you needed to get out there and do that fucking thing that you've been avoiding, not because you're incapable of doing it, but because you're afraid of how you're going to be perceived, or you might get rejected, or you might fail, or this or that. Take some fucking initiative, man. Take some responsibility for your life. And this is not me preaching or telling you how to live your life. This is me as a proverbial big brother speaking from experience. As somebody who used to be very shy and anxious and afraid to make mistakes, afraid of being seen trying, afraid of what other people were going to say or think, or if they'd laugh at me or if I'd be embarrassed. All of that shit, bro. Those of y'all that listen to the pod regularly probably understand by now. When I'm talking shit, it's not because I think I'm better than you or because I got all the answers or I want to tell you how to live your life. I'm really talking to myself. I'm really talking to myself, saying all the shit that I needed to hear back then, knowing that somebody's probably in the same position right now. So you do what you want. But I'm saying if you identify with me and what I'm saying, let this be the verbal push to go out there and take some fucking initiative, man. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be anxious. And if you have to feel those feelings while taking the initiative, then fucking feel them, bro. They're your feelings. You're human. It's okay to feel your feelings. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be scared, bro. And if you have to do it while you're scared, then fucking do it while you're scared. Eventually you won't be scared no more. So as corny and cliche as that sounds, that is what I believe. Take the initiative. Word number 4, assessment. I don't really like that word. What I was thinking at first was I'm just going to talk about whatever word pops up on the screen, but assessment, the first thing that comes to mind is the importance of assessing oneself. But man, I just got off of that motivational speaker shit. Let's do something better. Float. This one's interesting. FLA. Jesus, I'm looking at the word and I spelled it wrong. I'm looking at it and spelled it wrong. FLOAT. 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 The word float. You know, the first thing, there's two things that came to mind almost simultaneously. The first one was marijuana, and I'll explain that in a second. The second one was a root beer float. Do y'all know what this is? Do y'all drink these in your country? I'm going to talk about that one first. A root beer float is I wouldn't call it dessert per se, because it doesn't have to be after a meal. But I guess it is. If you had to categorize it, it's a drink, but it's a dessert type of drink. I don't know. But basically what it is, you put the drink that is root beer. It's a particular type of soda, root beer. I don't know why they call it that. You put that into a glass. And then on top of that, you fill it up, let's say 80%, 85%. And then you take a scoop of vanilla ice cream and then you put that into the glass, and the ice cream is sitting there floating on top of the root beer. Hence the name root beer float. And that shit is delicious, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's so good, man. Even if you're not a big fan of root beer, it's still delicious. That whatever flavor root beer, I don't even know how to describe the flavor of root beer. Never thought about that. Is it like a slightly spicy, kind of sweet flavor? I don't know, bro. But that flavor of root beer mixing with the sweet flavor of the vanilla ice cream is just finger looking good. Which is a weird thing to say right now, because finger looking good, if you ever hear somebody say that, is typically after eating a food that you eat with your fingers and then you lick your fingers. Because you know what I'm saying? Finger looking good, like you eat some good chicken wings, or what's another finger food? Let's just use chicken wings. You're using your fingers to grab them and eat them, and then you got the sauce all over your fingers, and you lick your fingers, and that shit is good. It's so good that instead of using a napkin or just going to wash your hands, you're going to lick the sauce off your fingers. That's how good it is. It's finger licking good. So that is a strange thing to say in the context of a root beer float. I hope you're not trying to eat or drink that with your hands. That'd be a bit weird. Anyway, root beer floats, delicious. Now you can also make a Coke float, which is the same shit, but instead of using a root beer, you use Coca-Cola. I guess you could use any soda you want. There's no rules to this shit. That's one thing that you can definitely say about the US is if there's any rules about how to prepare food, we break each and every one of those motherfuckers, man. We don't give a fuck. Fucking bacon on donut sandwiches and shit. Jesus Christ. Have you guys seen the McGriddle at McDonald's? Which is essentially a syrup-filled pancake. Two syrup-filled pancakes, meaning that you have a pancake and somebody injects syrup inside the pancake as opposed to just drizzling it on the top of the pancake. So they're filled, like a jelly-filled donut, just like that. So it's a syrup-filled pancake, two of them. And in between those two pancakes, you got, what would you call it? Let's call it a fried egg, even though that's not exactly what it is. But it's an egg, cooked. And then there's 2 strips of bacon. I can't remember what else they put on it, but it's like a heart attack. A heart attack wrapped in paper You know what I'm saying? It's all that salt and all that sugar, all the fucking glucose and cholesterol and all those other scientific terms that are bad for, that are bad for you just in one sandwich, just designed to make your heart stop. Fucking hey, man. If there's one thing that is done extremely well in the United States of America, it is the production of poisonous food. Fucking hey. Anyway, we were here talking about something special, something that'll brighten your day, a root beer float, not the fake ass fucking meat they're trying to force on people these days, man. Jesus. Root beer float, that's what I think of when I hear float. Also, getting back to the first thing that came to mind, marijuana. If you smoke enough of that shit, you will feel like you're floating, just walking on clouds, man. I know in some places in the world, marijuana is still seen as this horrible, life destroying drug, even though in those same places and those same people will drink 7 shots of whiskey or vodka, 13 beers, 3 bottles of wine, but look at somebody who smokes weed as if they're the devil, which is so fucking retarded. But I understand it's just propaganda. It's a lack of education about what the plant is, what it does. And I'm not saying it's all good because it can definitely destroy your life if you're not careful. It's just as addictive as coffee or cigarettes or wine or liquor or beer or anything else. It's a mind altering substance. But I really don't think it's as bad as the media would like you to believe. And as I was saying, you smoke enough of that shit, man, you feel like you're just fucking floating on clouds, man. I swear, like it needs to be done in moderation. Don't let rappers and entertainers fool you because a lot of them are abusing the plant. Because if a lot of people drank alcohol as much as rappers smoke weed, we would put those people in rehab. Like, bro, you have a problem. You know what I mean? So you can abuse the plant for sure. I definitely have in the past. So you should do it in moderation and under certain conditions. But a lot of things are better when you smoke weed, man. I'll tell you that music sounds better, food tastes better, sex feels better, conversations are more engaging. Like it's just like all of your senses become heightened to a certain degree. You feel everything more intensely. And I think that's why some people have panic attacks because they're not used to being that aware of themselves and everything that's going on around them. And it's just like sensory overload and they just can't take it and they panic. I think that's what happens to some people when they smoke too much weed, which is why no matter what type of substance you're experimenting with, bro, you got to do that shit with people, with good people that you can trust, that are going to take care of you if you just happen to lose your shit. If this is your first time drinking alcohol, you've never done it before, you're fucking 20, no matter how old you are, your age doesn't matter, but this is your first time drinking alcohol, you got to do that shit with people that one have tried alcohol themselves and know what to expect and know how to handle their shit when they're drunk. But that will also take care of you if you end up getting all sloppy and crazy and acting out of character because of the alcohol. You don't want to get drunk for the first time with people that don't give a fuck about you. Somebody that'll just leave you face down in the streets outside the club while they go back inside to dance and try to get some girl's number. Fuck them niggas, bro. Don't drink with them. You know what I mean? You don't want to smoke weed with people who will just laugh at you and pull out their phone and start recording while you're having a panic attack, losing your shit. You want friends that'll take care of you, bro, that'll calm you down and remind you it's just a little bit of the fucking THC. You're not dying. You're going to be okay. Let's put on some music. Let's watch a TV show. Let's go for a walk. Let's do something. Somebody's going to be there for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Or it's mushrooms or whatever people do. Whatever people do, just be careful who you do that shit with, bro. You gotta be careful about that. Also, if anybody who's considering smoking weed, do not smoke weed that you did not see get broken down and rolled up. If you didn't see them pull out the bud, break it off of the stem, grind it up, and roll it up, don't smoke that shit. Just as a rule of thumb, just as a rule of thumb. Now, how would I define rule of thumb? Give me a second. Rule of thumb. Come on, man. Rule of thumb. Rule of thumb, a broadly accurate guide or principle based on experience or practice rather than theory. A useful rule of thumb is that about 10 hours will be needed to analyze each hour of recorded data. So basically, another way of saying that, a rule of thumb is like a rough guideline that you can use in a particular situation. So, in the context of smoking weed, with especially people you don't know very well, if you didn't see them roll the weed up, then think twice about smoking it because you just don't know what people put in that marijuana cigarette or that joint or that blunt or that bong pipe or that bowl or whatever. You gotta see the shit. Also know what to look for because you might be looking at it and not even know what you're looking at. So yeah, the moral of the story is be careful, man, experimenting with mind altering substances and just doing drugs with just anybody because man, so many stories I'd like to tell on this podcast, but it's just not I don't know if this is the proper platform for that. But man, I've seen some fucking dude. The good thing about hanging out with drug addicts is it gives you a very clear reason why you should be very careful when playing around with drugs. Once you see what cocaine does to people, or prescription pills, or alcohol, or even weed, or LSD, or shrooms, or whatever, once you see what it does to people who abuse it, man, you're like, I'll be having none of that. Thank you very much. I'll be having none of that shit. Nah, I'm good, B. But what I was saying initially is that, man, you smoke some weed sometimes, some really good, strong weed, and just put on your favorite album, lay out across the bed after a long week. You feel like you're laying on a cloud and just lost in the music. You'll hear every fucking instrument, every music note. You know what I'm saying? The sound is so rich. Get you a pair of good headphones, bro. Just vibe out. You know what I'm saying? Just floating on clouds. Best sleep you will ever get in your life is off of THC. Even if you don't want to smoke it. Some people are against the smoking of marijuana. That's their big hang up. That's the big thing that stops them from trying it. Bro, you can eat it. Just to eat an edible. They make cookies, they make brownies and bubble gum and candy and drinks, fucking pastries, you name it, bro. They found ways to put THC, and maybe you don't know THC. I guess this is common knowledge, but just in case you don't know, for all my uninitiated listeners, THC, which stands for a name I can never remember or say correctly, tetrahydra something. THC is the active ingredient in marijuana that is, in fact, psychoactive. It's the thing that makes you feel high, the thing that creates those psychoactive effects. So there's many ways to get THC into your system, bro. You don't have to smoke it. You can eat it. Now, the effect is slightly different. The high that you feel from smoking weed is not the same as the high that you feel from eating the weed. But if you don't want to smoke it, you can still eat it. Just that's another thing, man. That's why you gotta do shit with experienced people that have your best interest in mind. Because you especially like in high school and college, man, you'll just have friends who are genuinely your friends but are evil to you because they're your friends. They just want to fuck with you. And they'll say, hey, I just got these edibles, bro. You gotta try these. It's, they're super good. And you're like, well, how much weed is in there? Oh, not that much, man. They're not that strong. You can eat the whole thing. Go ahead, eat the whole cookie. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. I had two yesterday, man. It was nothing. It's nothing. Eat the whole cookie, bro. Then you eat the whole cookie, trusting your friend, and you take a trip to fucking Jupiter, bro. High for the next 7 hours. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it, bro. It's in your blood. You know what I'm saying? You digested that shit. It's in your blood now. So it just has to run its course. And you are high as a fucking spaceship for the next 6 or 7 hours. Whereas with smoking weed, it's not like that. You'll probably be high for 2 to 3 hours most. And then you just ease into this sense of relaxation. But whether you smoke it or you eat it, bro, you are going to get the best sleep you've ever gotten in your life. That I can almost guarantee you. Thinking of float, another word that comes to mind, in a parade, going through the city, celebrating whatever, there are these big rolling structures that represent different characters. There might be one, let's say it's a Disney, fuck Disney. Let's say it's the parade of Manchester United after they win the Premier League. If there's a parade in the city, they might have these big man made structures representing the players. It'll be a gigantic Bruno Fernandes or a gigantic Anthony Martial or Marcus Rashford or a gigantic Sir Alex Ferguson or something. And it's just rolling down the street. It looks like a statue, but it's not made out of metal generally. That big rolling structure is what we call a float, a parade float. Now, why we call it that, I don't know. Maybe because it looks like it's floating down the street as it rolls. I really don't know. But that is also called a float. What else comes to mind when I hear float? I guess floating in the ocean, floating in a swimming pool. They say that all living beings that have oxygen in their bodies can float. And that's why dead bodies sink to the bottom of the lake or the ocean or the river or whatever body of water it may be. Living bodies don't sink. You have to basically exhale all of the oxygen from your body in order for your body to sink. If you've ever been in a swimming pool, then you know this. You have to let all the air out of your body to then be able to sink to the bottom of the pool. This is something that I struggle to do though. I don't float. You ever seen some people that can just lay on their backs on the surface of the water and just float like a piece of paper or some shit? My legs I always end up back vertical. I don't know what it is, bro. Is it genetic? Like maybe just my bloodline. We're incapable of floating. We're better on 2 feet. Let's find another. Let's find another word here before we fall off the rails. I don't like any of these. Domination, freshman, volunteer. All right. Well, I guess I can't scroll through too many. Let's fuck with volunteer. Actually, let me see how we're doing on time. I have no idea how long I've been talking. 52 minutes. Yeah, this will be the last one, my friends. Volunteer. What comes to mind? First of all, VOLUNTEER. Volunteer. This is a noun and a verb. The person who is volunteering is referred to as the volunteer, so that's easy. Now, the definition of volunteer is something I have to search for. Volontaire. Volontaire. A person who freely offers to take part in an enterprise or undertake a task. So somebody says, I need the trash to be taken out. And you say, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. You have just volunteered to take the trash out. You are the volunteer in this case. And volunteer work is very rewarding, man. It's something that is great to do, especially if you're traveling to a foreign country and you're going to be there for at least a month, ideally 2 or 3 months. That's one thing I did when I first traveled abroad. I went to Mexico and got the chance to volunteer at a daycare center, La Casa de los Ángeles, in San Miguel de Allende. And it was a great experience, bro. It was, I wouldn't say eye-opening in the sense that I was surprised by what I saw, but it was more, what's a better term than eye-opening? It was more like, as you can see, I'm still searching for the word. I thought I was going to be able to pull one out there. I can't think of a good word, so I'll just say it in a different way. It was a great experience because I got to coexist with actual Mexican people who didn't speak English, by the way. So luckily I had been learning quite a bit of Spanish before I actually went there, and I was able to communicate comfortably with all of the staff and all the kids and the parents and everything. So it was a really good experience. And this particular daycare center was for parents who didn't have enough money for traditional daycare and didn't have anybody to leave their kids with while they went to work. And before this daycare, La Casa de los Ángeles, before it existed, a lot of parents would just leave their children, their toddlers, at the house all day by themselves because I need to go to work to make money to support this kid. I can't take them to work with me. I don't have anybody to leave them with, so they would just leave the kids at home. And I believe, I don't want to fuck this up, but I believe some woman from Chicago, I forget her name, while she was in Mexico, she learned about this problem and decided to open the daycare center. And instead of making the parents pay money for the daycare, what they have to do is volunteer at the daycare center 1 hour every week. That's what they contribute in exchange for free childcare, which I think is such an amazing initiative. Going back to word number, I don't know, 3 or 4. It's an amazing initiative, man. It's an amazing thing to do for a group of people. And the whole center is run off of donations. So volunteers who go and work at the daycare center, not the parents, but volunteers like myself, I think we paid $50 for the application to become a volunteer, and that money goes directly to supporting the daycare center, at least in theory. So people who know about this place will do monthly donations. All the volunteers have to donate to participate. I don't know, excuse me, where else the money comes from, but the parents don't pay anything. That I do know. They just volunteer 1 hour a week at the place where their kid is already going to be. So that's pretty cool as well. And again, it was an amazing experience for me to be able to hang out with nothing but Mexican people. Literally Monday to Friday, I would go there, and the place I was staying was like a 2 minute walk from the daycare center. So that was cool. And got to interact with people of all ages, from toddlers to, I think the oldest kids there were maybe 10 or 11, maybe 12. And then, of course, the adults, all the staff and other volunteers. So that was a lot of fun, man. I learned a lot of Spanish there, had fun playing with the kids as well, because the thing about that place is the majority of the volunteers were female. It was a bunch of women. Obviously, just around the world, I think school teachers are mainly women. So most of the adults there were women, and the kids were, especially the boys, they were all super excited to have a male figure. I think it was me and 4 or 5 other guys there to have a male figure there. That just brings a different energy, and we're more like rambunctious and not aggressive, but physical, and play around and jump off of shit and stuff like that. Stuff that just boys do. So that was cool as well, that they could have that type of fun and have that type of influence, even if it was just temporary. That was pretty cool. Yeah, man. And I just love kids, man. Just I don't never want to be a school teacher or work at a daycare, but to do it temporarily is a lot of fun. Kids are the shit, man. So that was a lot of fun, and I don't remember why I was telling you that though. I guess I was just talking about my experience as a volunteer and why it's a good thing to do. That's what I was saying. It's because, again, from a personal standpoint, your benefit is you're learning this language, interacting with people like actual locals, hearing their stories and learning about their way of life, and eating meals with them and just talking. So that's a priceless experience in and of itself. But you're also making a contribution to the place you're visiting, even if it's not with money, because you're obviously not paying taxes as a tourist or anything like that. So if you can just do something that makes people's lives better, or contribute some type of effort or energy or positivity to the community in which you are staying, I think that's dope. So, and again, not just international, it's something that we should do. That sounds political. It's something that I would like to do, something that I should probably be doing no matter where I live, even if and when I go back to the States, just volunteering from time to time, just to get exposed to a different reality. Because sometimes we don't even interact that much with people in need, people in worse positions than we are. So getting exposure to that, talking to them, understanding what it's like to be them, trying to help them live a better life is corny and political as it sounds. I do think it's important. So even if you don't have the time or energy or the possibility of volunteering, just donating, which is a similar word. Volunteer describes a task being completed, but donate describes valuable possessions being given for nothing in exchange. So you can donate your old clothes, you can donate food. This is something that my dad made sure we did every year when I was a kid. Either right before or right after we got Christmas presents, we would have to take all of our old toys, all of our old clothes, anything that we weren't using and didn't need, and go donate it to kids who actually needed it. And that was something that I didn't think about till now, but it's something that stuck with me. I don't know why I haven't thought about that in the longest time, but just getting in the habit of doing that. And also him explaining to us why we were doing it, I think was a very smart thing to do as a father, or parent, you know what I mean? Um, So yeah, volunteering, donating, something that as I'm sitting here talking about, I realize that I need to do more, much more. So, and I guess you could argue on some level every content creator is a volunteer and making donations to the public in some way, shape, or form. Because just to think about all the shit that I learned on YouTube alone, but then with podcasts, TikTok videos, blog posts, articles on Substack. I mean, just so much information being given away for free. Whereas in the past, you'd have to pay for it or hope it was down there at the library, bro. Y'all remember the fucking library? Do our libraries even still open, bro? Who goes to the library? You know what I mean? Jesus. So that in a way is volunteering because you're just taking time out of your day to educate or entertain as well. Not just educators, but entertain other people for nothing in return. Obviously, some content creators can make money. The top 1 to 5% actually make some money with the shit. But other people do it just because they have something to share. They like entertaining people, making their day brighter, or they have knowledge that they can share and they want to educate people, make them smarter, more productive human beings, people that can't pay for world class education. I mean, think about what Andrew Huberman is doing with his podcast, teaching people about how their brain works and how to be more productive, how to focus longer, how to understand themselves so that they can function in the best possible way as human beings. People out there giving, well, some people giving financial advice. You got to be really careful with that shit. People teaching us about nutrition or communication skills or business or the environment or whatever. Independent news outlets that are unbiased, telling people what's really going on in the world. These are volunteers donating their time and their energy and their expertise to the world because they know we can benefit from it. So that's important, man. I'm not saying everything should be free. I definitely don't believe that. I don't think that's possible. Um, but still, donating and volunteering when you can, when it makes sense, I certainly believe makes the world, or at least some people's worlds, a better place. That sounded stupid. The way I said it didn't come out right. I think volunteering and donating can make certain people's worlds better, is what I meant to say. It can, it does a lot for people, even though we may not think of it that way. So, yeah, I said that was going to be the last word, didn't I? We're probably at the hour mark at this point. Yes, we are, my friends. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me, please, somebody give me some feedback on this type of episode because it was definitely fun just riffing on random words. Hopefully, you learned a thing or two or were entertained for the last hour. So let me know if y'all like this kind of episode. I'll keep this separate from talking about nothing. This is specifically me just riffing on random words that are being generated by the software program. Whereas talking about nothing is I start with maybe a couple ideas in mind and then I just go with the flow. And they're equally fun. I enjoy producing both. So let me know what you guys think about this episode format and if you want some more from your boy. But that's it for this episode of Real English Radio. I'm your host, Tony Kaizen, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.